Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the front CV boots on our 2015 Polaris RZR 900S. Pretty simple to do. Just want to get it lifted up where it's a little bit easier for me to work on, and I'll show you how to get it done. Alright guys, this is going to be a skill level 2. Not that tough, but still you're going to need to get organized on this one. Right, as far as the tools that you're going to need, you're going to have a couple of different dead blow hammers, a pair of needle nose, a pair of side cutters. On the socket side, you just need a 27, a 19, and a 15. A couple of 3/8 extensions will help you there as well. A 15mm wrench, flat blade screwdriver, and just a regular 3/8 ratchet. Then you also want to invest in a breaker bar to get those lug nuts loose on the tires. As far as your torque wrenches, I prefer using two different ones. The snap-on one I'd use for the smaller torques. Then I've got this larger Craftsman for the big numbers. All right, other than that, you need to pick up a utility knife, and most importantly, a pair of these. These are what they call a pair of CV boot pliers. So without those, you're not going to pull this off. Now, if you would, reference our exploded diagrams. That way you can go through and pick the parts that you're going to need, whether it be the inner or the outer boot, or one or the other, or both of them. I'm going to go ahead and do both. So once you've got your tools and your parts together, we can go over there and I can show you how to get it done. Let's start off by getting that cotter pin out, and then I'll have somebody hop up on the inside, hold the brakes, and get this castle nut off. All right, next we're going to go ahead and remove the two caliper mounting bracket bolts, a couple of 15mm. We're just going to take off the entire assembly. And you'll notice that these threads, they've got a little bit of a locking compound on them. And actually Polaris wants you to replace those bolts each and every time you take them off. I think that's a little excessive. I'm just going to clean them back up and use Loctite on them when we go to reassemble. All I'm doing here is using a zip tie just to hold this caliper bracket up and out of the way. I don't want it to hang by its hose. Alright, next we're going to take these two pinch bolts off, and that'll allow us to bring the control arms out of the hub. Alright, let's see if we can get those A-arms to let go. Now, we should just be able to grab it up here and pop it out. And there she is. And this is what we're after, because we need to replace that. Since we have to replace the outer one anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and replace both of them. So, let's get her over to the teardown bench and get this swapped out. Let's start by cutting these old bands off. Now I'm just getting the grease out of the way, and what we're after, once we get this cleaned up a little bit, is I want to hit on that inner race only, right about where my finger is. Now the joint itself looks to be in pretty good shape. This boot was not cut, so there was not any water or dirt intrusion. Like I said, we could probably reuse this boot, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it. I mean, you're right here. It took a fair amount of effort to get to, so I'm going to replace it. Tell you what, we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way. And it also said to tap evenly around this thing. Alright, looks like we got it apart without damaging it, so life is good. Okay, now we can concentrate on the other end. Same game, go ahead and cut these off. Where I'm cutting is where it's thinner on both sides. That's all you need to do is basically break that connection right there. And looks like we've got this one in time as well, because I don't see any water or dirt inside of it. So So I think we're going to be good to go. The only end that's actually removable is the outside. The inner, it stays together. So looking at it, it looks to be in really good shape. We're just going to add some grease back in there when we put it together, and it should be good to go for several more miles. All right, on this particular unit, our inner and outer boots are actually the same part number, so which is nice. I've worked on many a machine to where it was different from the inside to the outside. What we're going to do is fill up this cavity with grease and then a little bit more in the boot, and that should be good to go. Now you don't want to get any on the outside edge because that's where one of the clamps is actually going to go, and we want that to be a dry fit. All right, as you're pulling this one down, you'll see a couple of grooves that you need to get past, and then there's actually a step down in the diameter of the drive shaft, and that is where we want the leading edge to be. All right, all we need to do now is just get our clamps on. All right, guys, we've got the clamp set up in its preliminary position, because what we're going to do using the special tool is going to use this edge to grab here and here and pull that section together. When that happens, this section will come up here and then be grabbed by these other little protrusions. You have to be real careful in this section right here. These two bands on either side, they were trying to buckle up, so I had to be really careful, bringing that section together. There it is. All right, now we can go ahead and do the outer. All right, it's basically the same procedure as we did over on that end. Now Polaris actually wants you to replace this little clip. I don't think it's really that necessary. This one looks to be in good shape, still has a good spring to it. So I'm gonna go with it. There we go. I'm just gonna add back in some more grease. Just bring it down to where that bevel goes to a smaller diameter. Same process, same parts as we did before. Just need to do it again. Kind of helps if you push down on that outer edge, help clip it in there. All right, now that we've got our boots on, I just want to clean up these splines a little bit and then get some anti-seize on there. Then we can get it put back in the machine. So this does two things. One, it'll make it go back together a little bit smoother. And in the event that we have to go back into this, it'll allow it to come back apart. Because I can tell you from experience, when these two pieces get rusted together, it takes an awful lot to pull them apart. That's it. As you can see, it's pushed all the way up flush, so she's all the way in there. All right, next, let's get our hub put back together. Now, let's get that cleaned up a little bit too. It'll make it go together so much smoother. If you've got a bunch of dirt and grime in there, that just acts like a locking agent almost. And it will not want to go back together smoothly. All right, I'm going to go with some anti-seize on the splines, and then on the hub, put a little light amount of grease that's actually going to go in contact with that bearing. All right, let's start by bringing this up and around. I think we can go ahead and sit that on that lower control arm. Now, go ahead and put on our hub. See how smooth that was? The way it ought to be. Remember, you had two washers out here. And we'll go ahead and put this on, the castle nut on, just hand tight for right now. All right, let's go ahead and get a little bit of Loctite on our bolts. Start by getting these snug down, and then we're going to torque them to 42 foot-pounds. All right, the only way to get this in there is to use a 12-point socket, and it's real close. Now, let's go ahead and cut our caliper loose and bring it around and get it bolted back down. And we're going to put a little bit of Loctite on these as well. And caliper mounting bolts go to 30 foot-pounds. All right, last but not least, let's get this castle nut, and it's going to 180 foot-pounds. So we're going to change torque wrenches. That's it. And get our cotter pin back in there. Just getting our tire put back on, and then we're going to torque each one of these to 120 foot-pounds. Now remember, if you've got just the regular steel wheels, they only go to 60, but if you've got the aluminums, they got to go to 120. Well, all right, guys, that pretty much wraps this one up. All I've got to do now is just get it off the jack stands and take it for a spin. Well, listen, if you need any of the parts that we use to do this, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Till next time, we just want to say thanks for watching.